Hey everybody, Eric Dorward here with the Spartan Rocketry Club, continuing my build of the Estes Optima Pro. So the fin part is still in the paint shop, more or less, but the top half, well, the other half of it is over here, the nose cone. I don't actually need this part right now, but this part is dry and it had its finished coat of white anyway. So I'm actually going to take the time now to do some of the finishing work on this. That involves applying some decals, and then we're going to put in the recovery system, I think, or at least part of it. All right, so I'm going with the alternate decoration scheme as opposed to what's on the front of the box. So that basically means the bottom part, the fin part, is going to be black, and everything else is going to be white, but the decal placement is slightly different from the one that is printed in the instructions, which is fine. You know, it doesn't really make much of a difference, but just so you know, I'm not doing this as the instructions say. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to apply some of these decals here, these shiny things. And, you know, I don't really have exact measurements from this because I'm just looking at a picture. But from what I can tell, I'm going to put one of these shiny guys, and then a little bit of space, and then the purple shiny guy, and then another one of these shiny guys. And I'm going to leave plenty of space here because there is a big water slide decal. But I don't think I'm going to get to that in this video. So that's my plan. I'm going to start right at the edge with this one. I'm going to peel this backing off, hopefully, with some level of success. Yeah, there we go. At least I got it started. All right, I'm not going to peel the whole thing off right now. I'm just going to get this, on. At least try to. Hopefully things won't roll away too much. Now I did test fit this before, and it is like way longer than the actual tube. So it's going to overlap, which I don't think is really a problem, provided that I do this pretty accurately and it's not like wildly off by the time I get to the bottom. So that's why I'm going slowly and hopefully pretty carefully as well. Now I have to say, I don't really know if I can clear coat this after putting the decals on. The instructions say, or recommend it, or suggest that I can and should. I don't know what a clear coat's going to do to this. That actually matched up quite well. I'm glad I went slowly over that. So, I don't know. No clue. But I think I'll give it a try. I like to clear coat things just on general principle. It seems to be a good plan. But hopefully it'll work. Alright, so you know what? Actually, I think, looking again at the box, that this is supposed to actually go right up flush against. So I can do that. That actually probably should be a little bit easier. Ooh, that came off nicely. So again, I'm going to just repeat the process. Since this first one was on nice and straight, all I really need to do, hopefully, is keep the alignment, keep the purple just touching to the silvery part as I go, and it too should line up pretty nicely. It's a little harder to do because it's bigger, it's wider, but hopefully this will turn out as well. And your best bet here is to maintain a decent amount of tension on the sticker as you go. Yeah, that one wasn't quite as good. So I'm going to have to, yeah, I think this is going to have to give this another go. Which, basically I'm just going to try to force it over a little bit to the left. Yeah, I mean, that's better. It's still not perfect. But I would say it's not noticeable. So, hooray. If you were really concerned about this, you could put this one on first and then like overlap the edges with the silvery ones, I think. I don't really love that idea, but that's an option, I guess. Alright, let's get the last one on. Okay. Again, maintain tension, and you shouldn't have to deal with many, if any, air bubbles. Oh, that's interesting. That one just came right off. Alright, lined up pretty nicely. Okay, so that's done. I'm just going to smooth this out. I don't think I really need to, but probably, good practice. Just going to run my thumb and rotate it the direction that I laid the sticker down. Since this is a self-stick sticker, I haven't had as good luck with self-sticking stickers over the years. The adhesive seems to give up the ghost at some point, which is something that you won't have with water slide decals. Anyway, there is a water slide decal for this. I don't have the water, so, I mean I do, but it's not wet, so this is going to go like right about here. I don't really want to deal with this right now because I want to finish the other parts of this build first. Specifically, I want to put in the recovery system. I usually don't do this until after I've clear coated everything, but I'm not too worried about that in this case. Usually I do that just to, if I'm going to take things apart, I want to have this various parts of this separate so they're not tethered to each other if I wanted to paint them different colors. But the part that I do want to be a different color, well, that's not attached at the moment, so that is not a problem. So this is going to use a big elastic band, thick, wide elastic band, this, but still our classic Estes trapezoidal mount here. So this is probably not the strongest way of doing this that you could possibly come up with. In fact, I'm quite sure that it's not. It's also not it's more destructible, let's say, than some other approaches, but this band is pretty serious. This could take a pretty serious beating, and it hopefully won't be anywhere near the ejection charge. I'm going to put a few stripes of glue down. I'm going to put the band. Now this band is actually pretty heavy, so it very much is trying to pull itself away from where I put it. So I picked it up off camera and lined it up with where I wanted it to be. Alright, I put a little extra glue on top. Let's try to keep that down. There we go. And fold it over, squish it flat, hold it down for a little bit. Again, you want this as flat as possible, so plenty of pressure here. Don't need any excess air bubbles in this. Alright, that's probably pretty good. And then more glue. I'm going to put a little glue under. I usually don't do that, but this is so big. I can easily put glue in a lot of places. It would be a little trickier to do with the smaller Estes trapezoidal mount that I'm more used to. Alright, squeeze it flat, hold it down. It's pretty flat, but it's not pretty down yet. So this is going to go at the top of the tube that I have out, which is to say the not decaled part. And I'll bring out the nose cone here in a moment, or the top section, I guess I should say. It's not really the nose cone. In a moment, once this is all set. That's probably pretty good. A little bit of glue on the mat, which is fine. Yeah, so this is going to go in here, and then the top part, remember, we have a big old eye hook in it. This is going to be the attachment point. So let's get some glue. And then, considering how long this overlap section is, I do need to get this pretty far into the body tube. It's got to be at least as far in as the brown part, the exposed brown part. That shouldn't be a problem because this is a pretty wide tube, but I'm still going to be somewhat limited by how far my fingers reach. Yeah, which is not very far, as it turns out. All right. Yeah. Typically, on a bigger rocket like this, I can get more of my hand in than I have managed right now. This is actually going to be pretty close. Ooh, And I'm not making the world's greatest contact with it, I can tell, which is unfortunate. I think what I'm going to do, so I have scissors not open, I'm going to try to use them to push down, especially on the back part that I can't reach. Any kind of long, strong object. That's a decent tool here. But yeah, you definitely want this down and flat as best you can, and as adhered to the inside of the tube as you can get it. Alright, I'm going to hope that that's in far enough. I'm going to bundle up all this elastic here for a moment. I'm going to shove it in the tube. And before the glue sets, I really need to make sure that I've got it in far enough. Usually this is not an issue. Big model rocket, little model rocket, it's usually not a problem. But this one, I don't know. It's going to be closer than I would like. So I'm going to test fit this. Alright, good, it fits. How much does it fit by? Well, I don't know. I can't see down that end, but it fits, and that's all that matters. Alright, so we'll get this back out. I'm going to let this just sit slightly out of frame so it can dry. Meanwhile, the other end of it, well, the top part here, we might as well work on this. There are two things to do here. One is tie the cord in. I'm going to have to wrap that up a little bit so I can fit it through. Let's move some things around here. So, this is just going to take your typical overhand knot. And, you know, the instructions say to tie a double knot. I would tie more than that, personally, if I were you. But if they think a double is good enough, maybe it is. I don't know. So, but whatever you do, make sure it's tight. I think I'm going to put one more pass in here because I've got the cord for it. And hold tight. Alright, so that was 3 passes. I probably could do it a 4th time. It just doesn't hurt. Just making the knot kind of awkward and big, but that shouldn't make much of a difference for anything we really care about. If you wanted to trim the end off, you could, but I don't think there's any particular need or benefit. Alright, the last thing I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to get the parachute attached too. So this is a nice big nylon parachute. Not entirely sure how big it is, but it's pretty big. Needs to be because this is a pretty heavy rocket. I'm going to gather up all the cords. There we go. And since you can't see it, but there are 8 anchor points to this. So I'm going to have a crossover somewhere. The way that Estes does the plastic ones these days, there's 6, and the middle one goes directly across, so you can actually have them all pointed the same way without twisting any of them. Because there are 8 here, and there are corners that are next to each other, there's going to be a crossover somewhere. If we pull all the threads together, one of them is going to cross, which I don't think truly matters. It's this one, apparently, but it is worth knowing. Alright, so I've got them all gathered up. Let me get that out of the way. I'm going to, like I said, gather them up, and I'm going to push the loop here I've got through the, through the eye hook that we installed earlier. And then take the parachute and pull it taut like that. So there we go. Now I typically, for smaller builds, I like to use fishing barrel swivels, these guys. The biggest ones that I have are not big enough for that much thread, so I'm just going to tie it directly there. You certainly could get bigger barrel swivels to minimize the, the likelihood of it twisting, spinning up during flight. If you're going to do that, make sure that they are pretty heavily rated. I seriously doubt the biggest ones I have, I wouldn't want to trust them because they don't They can handle a little parachute and a little rocket, but this is a pretty heavy rocket. I would want a pretty serious barrel swivel. Alright, so that takes care of this part. Uh, the top is more or less constructed. The only thing that's missing is that decal, and I'll do that in the next video. One last thing I wanted to mention, so this top part here, the nose is not attached. This is a payload bay. It doesn't have anything in it. This is a place I guess you could consider if you wanted to do dual deployment. I have never done dual deployment. I don't pretend to know anything about it other than the fact that you use 2 parachutes. This one would be a drogue. That would be a little parachute that just slows things down and keeps it straight during flight. And then you would need an electronic system to then pop this nose cone out, have another parachute come out, and that would be the main one. Can't imagine this kit was actually designed with that in mind, but it does have the capability because it does have this payload bay here. This would be pretty sophisticated. Like, this is not something I would want to do if this were my first time flying a mid-power rocket. If you're an expert, you're probably not watching this, but I don't know if you are because you're bored, then you probably already know more about this than I. There are definitely places you could go on the internet to learn about dual deployment. I am not that person. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully in the next one we'll be able to do the finishing steps on the lower half and then wrap things up. Thanks for watching.